So, Senator, are we ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I'm going to let you go first,
all right.
Elder Senator.
Thank you, Joyce. And it's wonderful to see everyone this afternoon. And I want to ask us to put ourselves in a honoring mode, As we have this conversation this afternoon, I'm thinking about some wonderful women who've gone on for us. I'm thinking of the late Dr. Ethel Simon McWilliams. I'm thinking of the late Senator Jackie Winters.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of Beatrice Morrow Kennedy. She was the woman who in the 1920s in Portland, she ran for a seat on the school board from Southwest Portland. And Beatrice Morrow Kennedy was also the first Black woman attorney. I also want to say this before turning it over to my sister Joyce Harris.
Someone needs to mute their phone.
And that's just one of your boxes too.
Give me.
It was you?
Forgive me, everyone. We're going to mute everyone and so that we can all hear Abel really quick, or Senator Gordley very quickly. Forgive me.
Okay, Abel will have to unmute.
Good.
Steph, are you able to unmute her?
I am trying to unmute Senator Gordley. All I could do is ask, forgive me.
Try it now. It looks like she's unmuted.
Okay. Abel, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, so
Ready?
you have to do your little speech again.
I'm as we start our conversation this afternoon, I'm just very aware that we're standing on the shoulders of some great Black women who worked to serve and save Black children, who worked very hard to make it possible for there to be a quality, non-racist education for all children. I'm thinking of the late Ethel Simon McWilliams, Dr. Ethel Simon McWilliams. I'm thinking of the late Senator Jackie Winters, and I'm thinking of Beatrice Morrow Kennedy. She was the first Black woman to run for a seat on the school board, Portland School Board in the 1920s. And she also ran for a seat in the Oregon legislature during that same time frame. So we're standing on shoulders. And I'm also very mindful that in doing this co-welcome with Joyce Harris, that we're in the presence of greatness, with Joyce being with us. You know, some of you may not be aware that Joyce started her work to support the education of Black children when she was 19 years old. And for over going on 50 years, Joyce has worked in this community to serve and save our children. She is a founder of the Black Educational Center, where she touched the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of children and their families. Joyce was the author of the language arts baseline essay that was part of the curriculum effort to gain a Black curriculum in the 1980s. Joyce and I traveled to Atlanta in the mid 1980s to meet with Dr. Asa Hilliard to convince him to come to Portland and work with us in creating the African American baseline essays. So Joyce was deeply involved in that work. I just want to pay tribute to the women who've gone before, and I want to pay tribute to Joyce, who's sitting with us today, for her over almost 5 decades of work to serve and save Black children and to work to ensure that we have a curriculum and an education that is non-racist. So with that said, I'll just turn it over to Joyce and say a warm hello to everyone who's on this call this afternoon.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Abel, thank you for that acknowledgement. I often forget, probably on purpose, that I'm an elder now. And it has been, I landed in Portland in 1969 to go to college. And as they say, the rest is history. This gathering today, as I thought about it over the last few days, I thought this is a gathering of, it started out to be a gathering of women. And now we have men who are here, which is great because, you know, we can't do things alone. We have to be united as a community, brothers and sisters, elders, young folks. We have to be together. And what I want to just say is that this journey to provide equitable and excellent education for our children is ongoing. We have to understand that we have to always be, you know, it's just like if you're an athlete, you know, athletes don't never stop perfecting their craft. And that's what we must do. We must make sure that excellence, and more excellence is what we strive for. You know, at the BEC, we used to have one of our posters on the wall was always that we strive for excellence. And that's what we always made our children understand, that they have to work for excellence. It doesn't just come to you. And we demonstrated that in the work that we did with them. So I'm going to just move on and acknowledge some of the legislators that we have on. I think we have Representative Bynum. And Janella, you here? Is Representative
I
Bynum?
am. Good
Oh, okay, there
afternoon.
you are. There you are.
I am.
Akasha Lawrence Spence, you're here, aren't you?
Mama Joyce.
Hi there, sweetie. Good to see you. What other legislators do we have? Do we have any other ones?
We have
And
a
I just,
few.
who?
We have Representative Alyssa Kenny Geyer, House Speaker Tina Kochek,
Oh, okay, great.
Senator Dembro. You're doing some of my stuff to acknowledge the electeds. It's great.
Oh, I thought that was my script. I'm sorry.
You're
But
all good.
you go ahead and say what you have to say later. What I want to say is that I want to thank the legislators. You all have stepped up to support our community in many different ways. Most recently, I think the Black Cares Fund was incredible work. I see Julia Brim Edwards, Representative Nas. Okay, all of you, continue to do the work that you do. Oh, and Ted, are you a legislator? Do they call you a legislator? I don't know. But anyway.
They call me worse than that.
Oh, I know that, but we're not going to go there. All I want to say is I want to thank you all for the work that you do, because I know it's hard work. It takes a lot of courage, and you take a lot of crap. I know that. We all know that. So I just want to acknowledge that. And I just want to say, I found this quote that I want to share with you. There are three kinds of people in the world: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. And I like to say, because I know most of you on this call, you all are people who make things happen. And it's in that spirit that we are together today to make sure that we make this happen in our community, and to make sure that we create this center of excellence. I'm so excited about that, because I think we can do so much to empower, educate, and inspire our young people, our families, and our community. So I'm going to turn it over to Kali, since I've taken half of her script. And thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing? Just one more thing. I want to acknowledge that Denise Peterson was my former legislative assistant, and she now serves on the MESD board,
Yeah.
Multnomah Education Service District Board, and I'm so proud of her.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Denise.
Well,
Okay.
hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, Mama Joyce. Thank you, Senator Gordley. There's so much wisdom that the two of you bring alone to our conversation today. And we definitely also stand on your shoulders in the work that we are trying to do as a collective. I want to acknowledge, I have a list of elected officials here that I just want to quickly acknowledge, beginning with our co-hosts. We have a number of co-hosts who are elected officials. Some of them have been mentioned: Rep. Lawrence Spence, Representative Janelle Bynum, PPS Director Michelle DePass, PCC Director Tiffany Penson, Senator Avel Gordley, and Senator Margaret Carter. So thank you as co-hosts. And then in addition, on the call, we have Supreme Court Justice Adrian Nelson, County Commissioner Shashila Jayapal, House Speaker Tina Kotek, Senator Michael Dembro, State Representatives Maxine Dexter, Alyssa Kenny Geyer, Rob Nose, City Commissioners Chloe U. Daly, Mayor Wheeler, school board members Amy Constam and Julia Brim Edwards and Rita Moore. And there is a note also that State Senator Chip Shields is going to contribute, but he's not able to be here. So thank you all, our electeds. We're excited to have you here today. We wanted to start by just doing a quick introduction of the co-hosts specifically, all of whom are brilliant Black women that I personally admire and look up to in various different ways. And we wanted everyone to answer a simple question, and that question is who has facilitated your success or inspired the work that you do? And I will start with the answer for me. I'm sharing with Winta, my grandmother. There's many people I admire. My grandmother was orphaned at age 12 and raised her siblings, and then went on to be the first in her family to go to college. She went to North Carolina Central, and then she raised 6 kids and worked full-time as an educator and a teacher, as well as someone who was very involved with her church and involved in her community. She integrated her community in Teaneck, New Jersey as a Black family. So I look up to her, and I was joking with Winta, I don't know how she did it in that era where she did it, but I never could complain. That is my person, and I'll pass it along to Winta.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you everyone for being here. I'll admit that Kelly and I selfishly wanted to soak up all of the Black girl magic that exists among our co-hosts and many of the guests here. And so it's in that spirit that we're asking this question and making sure that we have a chance to lift up those who have inspired us to date. So I will ask participants to drop their people and their stories in the chat if they'd also like to share. And so very quickly, mine is also my grandmother who, while only was educated to the 3rd grade, did everything that made it possible for me to go much more than that. And so I will pass it now to Rep. Bynum, and I will ask you to then pass it on to another co-host. I've dropped the name of all the co-hosts in the chat. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My spiritual warrior is my grandmother, Ludi Mae Galloway, and her favorite scripture was, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." And that was how she led her family. That is what guided my mother and her sisters and brothers to get an education, and then they passed that along to me. So we are here today in the spirit of educating, in the spirit of Black excellence, and the spirit of loving Black children unconditionally. I will pass it on to Rep. Akasha Lawrence Spence.
Thank you so much, Rep. Bynum, and thank you, Kelly and Winta, for having us all today and convening us. Continuing along the trend, although I will add my mother to that, it's going to be both my mother and grandmother in tandem. My grandmother came to this country in the early 80s. And much like Winta's grandmother, only had a 3rd grade education, but fought and worked incredibly hard and instilled in me the concept of service as it goes, and civic engagement. We're in an election year, and a critical one at that. And my grandmother, you know, in the country that she came from, on election day would be put into a van and made to vote according to somebody else's will on the thread of her life and that of her family. And so coming to America and having the free and fair votes was incredibly important to her. And she instilled in me the need to engage civically, and she instilled that in my mother as well, who joined the armed services and fought for this country. And so those 2 women instilled in me my love of service to my community, and the power and the need to constantly make our voices heard. And this is a forum where we're doing that, just that, right, with this bond measure. So I want to hand it over to Rakaya.
Rep. Spence, I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Anyway, if we can have just a party to celebrate you, I look forward to it. I would say for me, it's my great grandmother. She arrived in Portland, leading our family here, and rented an attic apartment without a bathroom in Lower Albina. And she wrote in her Bible that day, "Dear God, I hope I've made the right decision in bringing my family to this place." 4 generations later, I have a Juris Doctorate, and I'm on this call with you all. I think she made the right choice. This is the beloved community that she wanted us to build. So let's live it. Let's live it. So with that said, I will pass the baton over to LaToya Fick.
Awesome. Of course, my mom and grandma and the women who raised me were a huge part of how I came to be who I am. But as I thought about this question, the first person that jumped out at me was my kindergarten teacher, because the very first teacher I ever had was a Black woman named Mrs. Coulter. And every single day she poured into me and reminded me that my life was mine and that I could do and be whomever I wanted to be when I grew up. It didn't matter that we were on food stamps, or I was raised by a single mom and on free lunch. That didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was that I had a brain and I could shape it to be whatever I wanted to be. And so just giving that back to as many kids as possible is my life's mission and my life's work. So I'm super excited to be here with you all, and I will pass it to Libra.
She's not here.
Thought I saw her. I will pass to Lakita. Miss Elliott.
Oh, thank you. I'm Lakita Elliott. I went to the best high school in town. That's why I'm excited about this bond, the opportunity to rebuild Jefferson. But I actually went to Jefferson for preschool and for high school and grew up in Northeast Portland. And my person was a teacher at Humboldt School, and Miss Audrey Lathan. And she was someone who had grown up in the neighborhood. She grew up with my mom. Her family was in the community. Her family still lives just a block from Humboldt, from where Kairos is now. But I was the kid who had parents on drugs, who, was the low income, the kids that we always talk about that we're wanting to work and to serve. And Audrey was the person who was from the community, who looked out for the young people in the community, who, again, understood what we were going through. And throughout my schooling, there were adults like that who were from the community who looked out for us young people. Audrey started a drill team because everyone couldn't be, in the top drill team. And so she started a second drill team. And she continued to work at Humboldt for many, many years, but it's Audrey Lathan and all the other educators who have been here in Portland building that kind of community. Like I said, she used to put my hair in a ponytail if I needed it, or bought me shoestrings and those kinds of things. And like, those are the kind of Black women educators that I know and love here in Portland, but it's Audrey Lathan is my key person. And I think I'm gonna pass it on. Let's see, I guess Kali already went, huh? I'll pass it on to Nikenge.
Thank you, Lakeitha. Can you hear me? Super. I am Nikenge Harmon Johnson. I'm delighted to be here today. I'm glad to be with my sisters and all the participants. Thank you for being here to help us to raise funds and also awareness on this important bond measure. I am going to lift up briefly my mother, Professor Melly Harmon, who was the first faculty member of color at Chemeketa Community College, one of the longest serving faculty members at that college, and along with my father, my first teacher. But I also want to lift up Joyce A. Taylor, who was the secretary at Harriet Tubman Middle School when I was a middle school student there. Joyce was powerful, and she was bold, and she was smart, and she was empathetic, but she didn't have a college degree. And I remember watching the way that people would treat her and talk to her and try to shine on her merely because of the lack of those two little BS or BA letters. And it made a big impact on me as a 10-year-old, as an 11-year-old. And although Joyce had a company on the outside called Debonair Productions, where she helped students learn about leadership skills and how to run a business, and she was an incredible woman in our community, she was often overlooked. And I knew from a very young age that I was going to get an alphabet soup behind my name, so that did not happen to me. It would not be enough to be bad and bodacious and bold and gorgeous as a Black woman. I would need to do a little more to get what was coming to me. And Joyce helped me to understand that, both in word, but also in deed. She went on to get her bachelor's degree while she worked full-time and raised her family. And then she got her master's degree. When Joyce died, she was the executive director of the Northeast Business Association. And I'm so proud that she continued to be my mentor when I became president of the Urban League of Portland. So I want to lift her up in this moment because she was one of my shining role models when I was a Portland Public School student. Thank you. And I miss her very deeply. Let me look in this chat and see who is next. Kali, I'm scrolling, I'm looking. I think Principal Watson. Oh my goodness, I get to pass it to you and to say thank you so much for being a dope sister and for being a principal in our school system. We appreciate you, we need you, and we love you, sis.
I love y'all too. Thank you so much for having me, y'all. I'm gonna honor Joyce as well. I know we're talking about our moms and our grandmothers, and I have some incredible shoulders that I stand on, but I also want to give the flowers to those that can smell them in the moment. And so for me, who has facilitated a portion of my success would, of course, be none other than our mama Joyce Harris and Mama Renee Anderson, who I do believe is also on the Zoom today. And when I think about shoulders, I remember I had testified or I had spoke at a PPS board meeting, and I didn't think I had done that well. And I was really nervous about what I had to say. And Mama Joyce sent me a text message, and I won't read the message, although I have it up, I do read it often. But she talked about the strength of what she heard, and she talked about what she saw, and she talked about, gave me permission to continue being. And then not only said that, but then ended it with, you will forever have my shoulders to stand on. When we think about the work that we're doing in our communities, it's oftentimes the elders that whose shoulders that we're standing on. And I don't know if we get this opportunity to be able to give them their flowers while they can smell them. Mama Renee has protected me, has kept me safe. They have left breadcrumbs for me to follow. They have left the door open. They have lifted me and buoyed me. They've corrected me. They've allowed me to be in their personal space with their other friends and connections. And I got to sit as a fly on that wall. None of those things they may not feel big, but they're incredibly huge because it teaches us about conduct and it teaches us about being unapologetic. And then you get to see what our elders are laboring with and against and up, right? And I think I just need them to know how much I appreciate them being the shoulders that I get to stand on. I am a principal today. I've never done anything like this in my life. And they're in my cabinet. They're correcting, they're encouraging, they're holding, they're praying, they're calling and hunting me down. That is the bouquet of a village. And so when I think about who I am today, I am definitely standing on the shoulders of Mama Joyce Harris and Renee Anderson. With that, Kali, have we reached the end of our hosts?
We have a
I'm looking at our list. I think we got Director Tiffany Penson. I can pass it to sis with a different shirt on today than yesterday.
Thank
Tiffany.
God. My name is Tiffany Penson, and thank you for having me. It's a delight to be amongst all of you, and in thinking about who has been the greatest impact and who the shoulders I stand on, and it is my mother and my father, John and Earlene. One of the things that I appreciate so much, they raised me with an enormous amount of confidence. I always walk in a room and just feel like I belong, even if it really isn't for me. And I think that says a lot. And they also always told me you can do anything and be anything that you want to be in this world. And my father used to drop me off. I remember when he would drop me off on Mondays at Catlin when I was in grade school, and he used to be, "Little chief, don't accept no wooden nickels." So there's all these things that were always constantly said. And my mother still until this day reminds me of that confidence and reminds me that I can be and do anything. So thank you. I am going to pass it on. Michelle, did you go yet?
I have not. It is so amazing to be here with all these sisters. I just can't even tell you how much life this is giving my week and how necessary it feels and how awesome to just be reminded again of the work that's happened for decades in Portland. I'm so appreciative to those that have whose shoulders I'm standing on, and I'm looking at a lot of people right here on the call. A few mentors included, and a ton of inspiration. I'm also not going to be that original. It's my grandmother, Thelma DePass from Panama. She moved to Portland in 1947 after having won the lottery in Panama, and moved with my dad and my aunt. And, you know, a very dark-skinned woman with a thick accent, and had to get right to work. But was very involved in education she was an 8th grade graduate herself, but very involved in my father's and aunt's education. She put them both in Catholic school. They were both, I know for sure, my dad was the first Negro to graduate from Central Catholic, but it was really important to her, even in Panama, to provide the best education that she could. So I'm very grateful for her today. I wasn't as close as I was with my other grandmother, who also moved here in the 40s, but she's been a tremendous source of inspiration for me. Let's see, and do we have, is Senator Carter able to get in? I know she'd had some difficulty.
I thought that's who the Carter was, but perhaps not. And I don't know if someone from the campaign team can clear. And then we also have Shibri Vickers. Shibri can go if Senator
I can certainly go ahead and, first of all, thank you so much. This has been incredibly warm to have everyone here today. When I think of someone who has lifted me up throughout, I'm going to go with my mother. We went through a lot, lived through a lot, whether we were living in our car, on a couch in someone's home, whatever it was. My mom, who was a college graduate, got married before she had kids, did everything as you were quote unquote supposed to, still kept us safe. And I lift her up in all that I do. She is someone who has dealt with domestic violence and so many different things, but kept herself full of grace and passed that on to the rest of us. And so when I think things are hard, I remember that she has already done this, and I can go so much further because of her strength that she's instilled in me and all of my siblings. And so I just lift her up today. Thank you so much for the women who were hosting this today. I'm so glad to be joining you all in the work that you are doing.
Thank you, everyone. This has felt like a great big giant hug, and I'm so glad to have this energy to propel me into the next week. So do we have Senator Carter on the line? If not, we'll move on and we can come back.
Winta, she is not on the line, but I've invited her to come over. So I'm going to run and grab a mask and a chair for her to sit in, and she'll be joining us in 10 minutes or so.
Okay, Michelle, don't go anywhere because you are next on the agenda.
Can Avel and I share our stories? We are co-hosts.
Yes, please. Yes.
So
go ahead, Mom.
My life began with my grandmother. She raised me the first 9 years of my life, and I attribute all of my passion about social justice, being treated fairly, and advocating for people. When I was 4 years old, Emmett Till was killed. And I remember coming in the living room and my dear was crying. I had never seen her cry before. And she sat me down and she told me what had happened to this little boy. And that really began me on this path to wanting to help people, to eventually be an educator. When I was 15 years old, I took a group of 32 kids into the city to go on a field trip to the Museum of Natural History. And that's been my life's work. Even when I tried to steer in another direction, I always came back to education, advocating for justice, and not being afraid to speak up and speak out. So one of my favorite songs is Bob Marley's Get Up, Stand Up for your right. So Madea is my person.
Thank you. And Senator Gordley?
My grandmothers, Alberta,
Randolph.
Louise, Randolph, and
Yes.
Leslie Gordley, and my mom, of course, Beatrice, Bernice Gordley. They were all active and involved with Black women's clubs, the Oregon Association of Colored Women's Clubs, and their churches, Mount Olivet Baptist Church. And Grandma Alberta, she was a founder of the Harriet Tubman Club, which was a part of the Oregon Association of Colored Women's Clubs.
Right.
And so growing up, I just remember these women who were always showing up at the house for meetings and being taken to different gatherings that with Black women who are doing things. And when I think about all of them now, my grandmothers and my mother, there's an expression that says, keep going, keep going. And that's what we're doing right now. Keep going. And I think too that we're Harriet's daughters, y'all. We are Harriet's daughters. So hold that thought.
Thank you. I think between Harriet's daughters and Sojourners, I see Rakaya dropped a squad name for us too. And so, you know, there are, as we transition to talking about the PPS bond, I want to thank the superintendent all of the members of the school board and staff, as well as the campaign staff who have pulled together to make this happen. But let's start with Michelle, whose leadership has been key to helping us pull this conversation together, to tell us a little bit more about the bond. Michelle?
Has
Thank
been
you.
magic every Sunday. And even
Thank you. So hi, everybody. Again, my name is Michelle DePass, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more in detail about the upcoming bond. And excuse me, I'm out of breath. I've been running up and down the stairs, getting ready for Senator Carter to join us. Had to grab a mask, etc. Change up the setup. So we have a $1.2 billion bond measure on the upcoming ballot. You've probably seen, and that's a big number. Excuse me. And it's also a perfect time to invest in Portland's, make investment in Portland students. The bond measure will fund, boring things such as the roofs, and with roof repair comes seismic improvements. It will also fund investments in technology and curriculum. So someone mentioned earlier the work that's been done to, Mama Harris has done to create anti-racist curriculum. This will be an extension of that, and an investment in textbooks and curricula and technology. We want the district to be a one-to-one district where every child, every student has a device. We'll also be doing improvements to the first floor of our buildings that will bring us in compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act. And so people of all abilities will be welcome in all of our schools. Currently, if someone presents with a disability and they are able to go to their neighborhood school because it's not accessible, it presents a hardship on parents. And I'm really excited to talk about the modernization of Jefferson High School that's also included in this bond, which will be, I don't know if you've had a chance to see Franklin and Grant, but we're talking about a completely modernized building, which also represents an historic investment in Portland's Black community. With that investment comes $60 million for the development and the creation of a Center for Black Student Excellence, which has been, from what I hear today, years in the making. I'm so proud of the work that has happened, in decades past. Mama Harris, Senators Carter, Senator Gordley, I mean, the work that you've been doing and have done behind you, and I mean, done in years past, is coming to fruition. So I hope that you'll recognize that you're the strength of your work over these past decades. In addition to the modernization of Jefferson High School, Cleveland and Wilson work will happen in those areas too. That will include master planning and the development of construction documents. So those documents will be ready to submit for permitting. So that work is also happening under this bond. And yeah, that's what I know about it. This is not a new tax measure. It's a renewal of a tax that we're already paying. That was renewed again in 2017. And that's all I have to say about that. I hope you'll vote yes for it. It's always great to invest in our future, in students. And this is a perfect time for, the district to respond to Black Lives Matter and to the to Black children in our community.
Thank you,
I
Michelle.
think I'm supposed to pass it to someone and I don't have my script in front of me.
It's okay. I'm going to pick it up and pass it to Rakaya, who's going to give us a little bit of an overview of what's special about the bond. So Michelle laid out the architecture and the key pieces, but Rakaya is going to highlight the special opportunity we have.
Right, so it's unusual for me to be involved in anything related to education, but in this case, working with this amazing coalition of leaders, I wanted to say why, in my capacity as an investor, I think this is important. And I'm sure you've all heard the quote that if your plan is for 1 year, you plant rice. If your plan is for 10 years, you plant trees. And if your plan is for 100 years, you educate children. And we are at the beginning of a 100-year inflection point that I believe we will experience what is the greatest America, right? Where we actually are in a multiracial, pluralistic society. And it's our chance to educate young people to help us innovate out of some of the bigger challenges that we face with climate and politics and culture. So for me, this effort was really important to lean into, because I'm in the business of investing for the long term, and there's no greater asset that we have than human capital. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no bigger upside in our community than educating Black and Brown children. Here's the other thing that is unique here, is that we are setting out a standard of excellence for Black scholarship in PPS. And we're not side talking it, we're not avoiding it, we're saying it directly on. We want Black students to be excellent, and we're willing to invest the dollars that it takes to achieve that, because our communities need it and the children deserve it. And for me, that is the big driving factor that makes this unique. Sure, we need to make capital investments in buildings, and sure, we need to improve technology. But in the end, all of this investing is for the purpose of achieving excellence. And we want Black excellence to be specifically communicated as an attainable goal for this community. I am so excited as the village spinster with no children in the school system to continue to underwrite their excellence. That's why, Latoya, are you there? I see you laughing there. Yeah, as the village auntie, I will pay more and continue to pay to see our children succeed. I hope you all lean into this with me. Lean into it with me, even if you have no specific interest in the public school system. I also would like to say thank you to all those people who led us up to this moment to be so specific about Black excellence. I benefited from the advocacy of Mama Harris and Mama Avell to create Harriet Tubman Middle School, right? Lakeitha, Nakenge, all of us came through these programs leading up to building up to this moment of us contributing our voice to achieving excellence. And we look forward to Rep Spence in 20 years, when you're a nice middle-aged lady like us, that you will lean in even further. So anyway, circling back to the purpose of this, we are saying we expect excellence from all of our children, and we will not hide through underfunding projects the reasons why we don't achieve it. We're putting it in the front, and I am leaning in. That's all I got, Kali.
Great. I don't know if you can everybody see the screen? Can everybody see? I need a thumbs up from someone. Great, okay. Winta, it's all you. Let's dive into the Center for Black Excellence. We're gonna try to get through this quickly as we're a little behind schedule.
So I'll say that while we go through this quickly, please invite Kylie and I to come talk to you about this at length. We're so incredibly excited about this. So the Center for Black Excellence, this is a concept that emerged out of conversations this spring between Kairos, Albina Vision, many of the community leaders represented on this call here today, about what it means to create the kind of community that Rakaya is speaking about now, the kind of intentionally designed excellence that we need to fight for. And so there are three big concepts that are folded into this idea of Center for Black Excellence. These are high-level ideas that have been presented, but will be refined through a lot of engagement after the bond. And so this is why we're asking you to make sure that Portlanders take up this opportunity to pass this bond measure. So the first idea here is around the physical creation of the Center for Black Excellence. So we know from the stories shared today and the backgrounds of many people here that there are already lots of pockets of Black excellence in our community that promote safety, that promote belonging. We know that when families walk into the Urban League, they feel supported and like they can thrive. We know students at Kairos walk into the building with understanding that they will be supported to excellence. And so how can we, through this bond measure, connect these many community-based organizations and neighborhood schools to create an intentional pipeline that dislodges the school to prison pipeline and instead creates a pipeline to excellence all the way from early Head Start to college and career. And so this image shows all of the places that exist in Northeast Portland. Actually, this is just some of the places. We know that there are lots of other places that anchor our community. But the idea is that in thinking about them together, we can make sure that our investments in buildings are connected to the strategies and programs and community that has lifted so many of our success for so long. Next slide, Callie. And so this is another way of showing what that looks like. So you'll see Jess is in the center there as the anchor for the neighborhood and as the hub from which all of this that can unify and connect the learning and experience of young people in Albina. Callie, next slide. The second idea that we put forward is around the idea of a children's quarter. So we know that starting this spring, we were talking a lot about what it means to be safe in public spaces. So on the heels of the George Floyd murder and protests that ensued, we know that public spaces are highly contested. And so the way that we design them is important, and we need to design for the outcomes in the communities that we intend to be there. And a part of the conversations that have led us to this point is really about thinking about all of the spaces that Portland Public Schools occupies throughout the city, and how can we make sure that each of those spaces is intentionally designed to make Brown and Black children feel safe, their families feel supported, and the outcomes clearly pointing to their success. And so one of those ideas is for there to be a children's quarter, perhaps at the Concordia site, that is, again, intentionally designed around the development needs of children. So this is athletic facilities, theater spaces, housing, and continuing education centers for teachers and so on. Callie, next slide. And the last big idea, of course, is for us about Albina Vision. So as we invest in the programs and schools and additional support that we create in Northeast Portland, as we re-anchor our claim to this part of the city, we need housing to support all of this, and we need an overarching vision that says we can create a neighborhood that honors and centers the civic, social, and economic contributions of Black Portlanders. And we can design this through the lens of Black children, because we know that when we ask Black young kids and young Black and Brown kids to tell us what successful neighborhoods look like, the things that come to the forefront are actually different. And so this is our opportunity to reimagine and reclaim Lower Albina as a place for Black kids and their families.
As we move into the imagining of not just the infrastructure, but the people that the infrastructure serves, I'm going to talk briefly about how we're thinking about the concept of a centering of Black excellence. And it's focused on both supporting the child, supporting the Black family, and supporting Black teachers. And we believe that all three of these are instrumental if we are to see Black children thrive. I'm going to just read this to you because I think the imagining is important. And if you want to close your eyes, I invite you to do so. I want you to imagine a community where this boy or any Black boy is treated as a treasure and not a threat. His brilliance is assumed from the beginning. He is not disproportionately disciplined, but rather is poured into and allowed to have bad days like all of us as humans. And when he does so, he is supported to take deep breaths, to calm his brain. He learns emotional skills that strengthen his resiliency and emotional intelligence. And he is given rigorous coursework so that his math and literacy outcomes outpace his peers in the district. He is not just literate in the STEM field, he is fluent. He knows that his people, Black people, have contributed meaningfully to the fabric of this nation in science and math, technology, architecture, medicine, and literature. His cultural identity is not at odds with his academic success. And this boy, this Black boy, is not an anomaly. He is not an exception to the rule. He is the rule. That is what we want for every Black child in our community, and specifically in our Albina district. And this is what we are trying to imagine here today. It looks like many things, and we don't have time to list them all off. So as Winter said, we invite you to bring us in, but I'll name a couple things. It's expanding existing programs that are working to support Black children and make sure that every school that is serving Black children has access to those programs. It means investing in culturally relevant curriculum. We heard people talking about baseline essays. There are a lot of curriculums. There's a lot of things at the legislature now around curriculum. How do we ensure that every child has access to this curriculum that lifts up specifically Black children and brown children? Elevating student voice and ensuring the leadership of our children is respected and that they're represented on leadership councils and that their voice always is impacting and informing what is going on in the district. I'll move on to the family because Black, we believe, and at Kairos we believe in, and I think all of us know this as Black people, that children exist within their context of their family and that families are first teachers. So we want to imagine a community where our families, our Black families, are seen as assets and not threats, where they're not something to be feared, but to be desired and understood, and they're not blamed for children's failures and made scapegoats to underachievement, but that there is a true, authentic relationship built with every family, and they're understood to be essential in seeing children be successful. And so we know we have many things going on already in the community. We have many Black-led organizations that are supporting families, but they are not supporting them at scale that they need to be. We need to utilize the that we have in our community to ensure that all of our Black families are getting the support through organizations. We need to be ensuring that we support Black community health workers and the home visiting programs that help, particularly in the early years, with tuition into kindergarten. We need to ensure that there are toolkits being developed by Black people who have the expertise to do so. And finally, I'm going through this quickly.
Well, Winta, I think she was on the last slide, correct?
Yes, did she get bounced off the call?
She did, yeah, it looks like we lost her.
Okay, well, we will keep moving forward then. So as you saw from the presentation, be it in an abbreviated version, the main point that we want to bring home is that we want to intentionally make these decisions today so that when Black children are looking back at what happened in 2020, they know that we're investing both in the buildings, but the actual communities that are designed to help them thrive. And so with that, we will open it up for just 5 minutes of conversation, and then we'll wrap up. So are there any immediate reactions, questions, thoughts?
How can we support the effort? What can we do to help?
Yeah, I think is what would you need from us?
Sorry, I totally got this.
Maddie, go
Kelly,
ahead.
is there less? Okay, I think okay. So what can you do to help? The very next immediate step is, of course, showing your support for this bond measure. And so I'm glad that all of you are here today. We'll ask Senator Carter to jump in shortly to make the ask. And then beyond that, after the bond, Portland Public Schools, Kairos, Albina Vision, and many others will share the opportunities that exist to shape the actual creation of the Center for Black Excellence. This is about claiming that it needs to exist, but now we have the hard work of coming together to actually design what it looks like and making sure that it exists in the way that we're imagining. And I see Callie is back. Callie, do you have a final thought you want to share?
I'm sorry, I don't even know if you can hear me. My internet cut out.
in the middle. You get the vision though. It's a big vision. It's a bold vision. But it's a vision that's needed for our children and our families. I'm not going to go back to the presentation because I'm conscious of time, but you can see that there's a lot of work to be done. I think the last thing that I wanted to say is that this is a vision that doesn't lie within one or two organizations, that it's a collective vision. And Kairos, came together with Albina Vision, putting this forward, recognizing that this is a collective effort. If we're going to see it come to fruition, it is something that we need the whole community to invest in and to get involved in. And so we would ask you today to think about how you personally can be involved in helping this come to life. Step one is supporting the school bond, but the next day we need to start supporting how this vision comes to life and becomes real. So I would like to hand it over to Senator Carter to say more.
Hey to everybody. I am so glad that you asked me how you can help. I know everybody have their billfolds, their cards, their credit cards and everything. They're ready to give to this purpose, because when you talk about something about Black excellence and people, let me just mention the people who've done it before. When I see Avell Gordley, when I see Joyce Harris, and when I see Rakaya, a young woman who grew up in this community, being involved and ready to go and went away, came back, that's Black excellence. You don't lose your money. Get on board, everybody. Now what I want you to do is to pull out your credit cards. Okay, let me get mine. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to do any more than what I can do. Okay, let me see. Pull out your credit cards. Get ready. Come on, everybody, pull them out. Let me see everybody. You guys, come on. Let me see your credit cards. Either let me see some dollar bills. You guys know I'm not ashamed. I have no shame when it comes down to our children and when it comes down to raising money for the good of our community. I'd rather see our money go for excellence in making a greater generation than what we see right now, instead of going to the police department, criminal justice. We have kids that don't even know nothing about criminal justice. So let's get prepared to help those kids who are already ready to lead, who can show leadership. I visited over at College School and I saw all of these little kids who were so smart, asking questions, feeling vibrant and everything. It was wonderful. I went up to Albina Library with Joyce Harris. All those little kids were just working and talking about their future and what they can do in terms of helping this state to be a better state. Can I have somebody give me $500, please? Who will give me $500? Come on, let me see everybody.
Yeah. I think Tiffany Penson raising her hand.
All right. Did I just not see Rob? No,
Tiffany. I can do $500, Senator Carter.
Thank you. Somebody else give me $500. Come on, you guys. You guys who have campaigns, you know I know. Come on, give me 500. Did I hear the mayor say anything?
He's in. He's in.
The mayor's in.
I'm in for 500, you bet.
All right, you guys better tell me your name because you know I'll call you out. Come on, you guys. Who else will give me $500?
David Paul and Max Williams and Shabri. We got a lot of people giving. Maddie.
All right, you guys tell me so I have to just go.
I'm in. Senator Carter, Erling, can I talk to you a minute? Erling Henson started 1,000.
All right. Well, is there somebody else who would join, Erling?
I'm doing 500.
Thank you, Julie Mancini.
We move.
Can I have another 1,000 from somebody?
No, mine is
Sam Purvis, Ben Sands, Commissioner Jayapal. We got people. You're good.
All right, you guys, come on, open those purses up. Come on. Listen, when you start talking about our school district, you are talking about the cutting edge of being able to send kids away from this state into developing greater opportunity for themselves. And they come back to our city and help build this city up and be the best city it can be. And I need you guys on the line right now telling me that, did we get another 1,000 while I'm talking? You guys know I don't mind.
Pamela Ryan, 500. Bahia Overton, 250. Renee Anderson, 100. Mike Porter, 250. People are giving.
All right, guys, come on.
Article 250. Chris Nelson, 500. Thank you all.
All right, all right. You know, I appreciate this so much. When I look at my grandkids and I look at my great grandkids who are in public school system, I even have a couple of grandkids up at Kairos and everything. We can't stop giving. We have to keep going. I don't care. Some people may say, I don't have kids in public school anymore. I don't care. You have kids that are on the streets of Portland doing something. And so therefore, if those of us that have gone before them are not reaching back to help make this a safe state, how are you going to have doctors? How are you going to have lawyers? How are you going to have more ethical people in our society than what you're seeing at our national level today? Come on, people, let's be able to put into these kids' hearts and their minds good qualities, good ethics.
And CD just increased to 1,000.
All right, all right. It's very important that we don't lose sight of why we're raising this money. And besides, this is a Sunday afternoon when I'm supposed to be resting. You guys come on so I can get home at least by 6 o'clock, because I'm not going to stop talking till you give me some more money.
You got Erlene with 500, Maddie with 500, Maddie Peter, Camilla Adams, Brian Weaver.
Brian, thank you guys. Come on, guys. Somebody else give. Did we have
Scott, Board Director Scott?
All right. Did we get another $1,000 though, Kelly? Did we get 1,000?
Well, we got a lot of money. Angela Urbelo, in memory of her mom. She's a great activist.
Not here by herself, who always, that woman always generously give in our community. And it's
Emma
very
McElroy committed.
All right, you guys.
Wild thing.
I'm so glad. You don't know how I appreciate that, because we cannot let this bond measure go down. We must pass this bond measure. We must create Black excellence in our community, and we must have established order by which that can happen. So join us today. And if today you don't have money to put on the block, I bet when we look at winter, you can think of some other kind of ways that people can give after today. That's the thing. How can people give after today? That's what we need to know, because some people are probably going to go home and think, you know what? I should have given $1,000. So how do I get it in? Winter, come on. I know we have ways by which we can talk about next week when the first come along. Some people, I know you're going to be drawing those checks from the school district and from the state and from your engineering companies and from hospitals and everybody else, because I know these are all professional people here, and I know they got some more money and that they're going to want to give again. So how can that happen?
Senator Carter, we will have the campaign send the link, but I know that there are more who can give right now.
All right. I haven't stopped. I'm just saying, how can they give some after today? That's what we're talking about. And that's what's very, very important, that we be able to do that. Hey, brother man, how are you? Did you get some money there? Come on,
Mama Joyce Harris not only is giving money, but she has said that she wants to be involved in establishing the center, and we need people to set up that as well. So I hope that you're giving today as a first step, but we definitely need your help in continuing to bring this vision to reality.
Yes, we must not stop at what the school district has promised that they're going to give. I want to see.
Stand for Children's giving $2,500.
All right, Stand for Children. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Toya.
Is that Erin?
Toya Fick.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I had to call the lawyers to get the okay, but we're good. We're good to go. We're so excited to support this work.
All right.
Thank you, Toya.
Thank you.
Commissioner Daly. So the other thing is we got to get people to vote. This is actually a bond that is on the November ballot. We need people to vote. So all of you, I know most of you on this call have networks that you can connect to push to vote for this. So we need you to get the word out. Some people are voting early. So the sooner the better. You can get off this call and start emailing people or calling people to vote for this today. And I'm mindful of time. We want to end on time. So I'm going to ask Representative Janelle Bynum to close this out for today. Thank you all for your gifts and for being here.
So thank you everyone for coming. This was so uplifting. It was what I needed for today. I want to leave you with two thoughts. I have a freshman at Spelman College, and she was just doing an essay for the scanner. And she wrote in the essay, it was asking about Black education and what Black kids could do to be better. And she said, for the first time in her life, she had a curriculum that was tailored to her. 18 years here in Oregon. And this was the first time she was learning about her history from her perspective. And it warmed my heart. It's expensive, but it's worth it. And my children's education is non-negotiable. And then today we had a visit with Ken Ford, who took us on a walking tour of Portland. And I was with my younger daughter, and I was explaining to her, this is the history you're not getting in school. This is the Portland that we live in and that we love. This is the center of Black excellence. And so I think that for us to commit to something that is so real, that is so tangible, that gives us roots again back in the Black community, is what we should all be on board for. The final thought that I want to share with you is one that I share with educators of my Black children whenever I get a chance. I tell them, whether it's in North Clackamas School District or Portland Public Schools or the Archdiocese of Portland, whose responsibility is it to help grow the Black middle class? Whose responsibility is it to make sure that Black and brown children grow up to be accountants, lawyers, doctors, the next legislators? If it is not your responsibility, then whose is it? If it is not everyone on this call's responsibility to grow Black excellence and to grow the Black middle class, then whose is it? That is why we are here today. That is my life's work. And that is why I thank each of you for being so generous. The work is not finished, but this is a great start. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
This is the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Send the link out in an email too.
We'll send
Follow-up email.
We'll send out an email, the whole campaign will, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank you, everyone. Peace and blessings.
Yeah.
Can I hug
Thank
you?
Atlanta.
Virtual hugs.
Hugs.
Virtual hugs all around.
Yes.
Such a cute girl. Tiffany.
Bye.
Golly, do you have the chat?
Well, because I dropped off, I lost the chat.
I do. Steph and I will be able to get the list.
Okay.
That was like, can't believe
Leave
what
the
she
whole
said.
chat, and we'll be following up with everyone who.
Okay.
Yeah. I screenshotted the chat, so I
Good.
got it too.
We lose
Okay.
Winter. Okay.
I
Well,
think
thank you.
That went really well, Kali. We
That was
started
beautiful.
this, gosh, a year and a half ago. Oh my God, here we are. Oh my God. Yeah.
Well said that by cutting out when I talked about Black teachers, but that's okay.
Your timing it went well, Kali. It was perfect.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, all of you.
That was
Thank
beautiful,
y'all.
y'all.
I don't know if
All right.
I've seen a better fundraising ask than Senator Carter's just now.
She nailed it.
Never.
No,
I'm so
because
glad
she
she
knows
made it.
people have money. But we live in a community that has resources. Let me tell you, people have money.
Yes, ma'am.
And they
Get
want to
it.
give to good things.
You
They
got
want
it.
they want to give to good things.
I will say that one person asked a really good question, which is that they wanted to start to give to the CBE, not just to the bond measure. So, if this gets passed, boy, we'll be off to the races in fundraising for CBE in support of all the programming, which is exciting. Yeah,
that's for sure.
Got to get the vote to pass. So
yes.
All right, I love you guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
The check is coming. The check is coming, Jeremy.
I got you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Hey, bye, y'all.
Walk down the street and grab it.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Joya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Khalid. It was a wonderful event. Thank you so much.
Principal Calvert, are you still there?